Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
All right. Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Emily Soccorsy with me here today. Emily believes branding is how people experience your soul. She is the principal and owner of Root and River, a brand strategy and content development firm where she guides leaders to uncover the foundations of their brand with confidence. Solid stuff. All right. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim.
All right. So how long have you been doing brand awareness, brand
strategy?
Strategy, yes.
Yeah. So Root and River's been around for 9.5 years. It'll be 10 years in January. Been really practicing. We call it a practice brand strategy since then. Coming up on a decade.
Yeah, because the world keeps changing and it keeps keep having to reshape your service you're providing, but also how you interact with the world, right? And all that. Okay, but you didn't just start 9 years ago in branding, right? There's something, you had some foundation before you decided to start helping other people. Can you give a little insight into that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started my career actually as a journalist, and I spent about 8.5 years. Started as a reporter and worked my way up through the news organization and print media. And
we need journalists back, by the way.
I know. I think so too. We share that. We share that in common. But I often say, Tim, that I learned everything that I need to be successful in what was coming in my career in those years, because it was really about asking great questions, getting to the heart of the matter, understanding an issue from all perspectives, making people feel comfortable, but really kind of digging into where the real story is and how to get to it. And so loved journalism, but knew it was time to expand my repertoire of skills. So I went and I did PR for a little while. And that was really more positioning, and it exposed me to businesses and business owners. That was the first time I really gotten to know a lot of entrepreneurs who I started to see, from their perspective, what they thought was interesting about their business was not actually the interesting thing. It was this other story.
Most people, right?
Yeah. So it was so fun to understand that. And then finally, I went out on my own, and for kind of a transition. You know how it happens in your career. You have these eras of transition. I've gotten to here, pause game. What am I going to do?
Sure.
I know you've gone through that yourself.
Yeah. But I mean, you get perspective, right? Particularly when you're wearing that hat and you start seeing it from a different lens, right? From like the business owners you were just talking about. They're in the frame. They can't see the bigger picture, right? They don't know how everyone else is viewing it. And so that, I think, is a really, I don't know what they call that type of intelligence, but it's incredibly insightful and useful in this world, right? To interact with everyone else once you get to that level. I'm a nerd, right? I was very slow to get there. I'm still not sure I'm there, but I'm getting better at it.
I'm a nerd as well, and so I thought I would step away and do. When I left my job at the time, I was like, well, just see if my phone rings. I built up these connections in the Valley. I grew up here. I built, the first decade of my career here. See if my phone rings, and I'm just going to say yes to everything. And so I did ghostwriting. I did marketing. I did social media. I did kind of whatever. And then over time, my biggest client bought out more and more of my time. And they're a human behavioral research company that was really wanting, with a global footprint, but they're based here in the Scottsdale Air Park. And I ended up going in-house with them and becoming the VP of corporate communication for their company. And really all that was about was I was nerding out about human behavior assessments. And at the time we had started doing fMRI scans to validate the self-reporting or ipsative assessments that we're putting out. So it was a really interesting time. And I was so drawn in. I've always been curious about human behavior, being a journalist, trying to understand how people are motivated. And it was sort of this coming together a little bit at that point of my ability to translate emotions and experiences into language and find the really compelling pieces. And then also understanding human behavior and what moved someone through a story, or what I'm endlessly curious, and it says this on my LinkedIn profile. It's true. I'm just endlessly curious about how people make meaning and where and when they attach identity to the line between where I am and where you are starts to blur, and we put a piece of ourselves into an experience, into a brand, into a greater ideology.
Right.
So, I mean, looking back, that's kind of what was happening then. But I was also doing a really interesting job bringing that brand together. And I was
Right.
there for about 5 years, built a team there, and suddenly realized that my particular expertise was in this area of what we came to define as intrinsic branding. So branding from the inside out, as you said in my intro, like this idea that brand is not about some constructed character, Tony the Tiger or Betty Crocker, but it's about what we truly believe, what's in our soul that we want to share. And that's really what differentiates us. And that, if you can define that clearly, that's what people do start to identify, do start to be
Right.
drawn to you. So started Root and River with that in mind and developed, around that. But that's kind of my journey to this point.
Okay. Interesting stuff. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you think maybe I'll call us consumers,
Mm-hmm.
respond to things differently than we did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, in terms of looking for identity, like you just mentioned, right? A group that we can identify with and share the same beliefs as us instead of, I don't know, just simple value for a product.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And we started to see this. When we started talking about intrinsic branding and branding from the soul, that it wasn't about a product and it was really about what you believed. People literally, Tim, they were offended. They were like, no, no, this is about business. It's about simple value proposition, money for value. And we're like, no,
Okay.
no, no, it's not. So I think there was a lot of resistance when we first started talking about this. Um, but now this is the standard in the way that people brand and position themselves.
Right.
And
Can you
I
give it
to
a
your
good, oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah
Sorry.
to your question though too, I do think that human beings haven't changed that much. We are meaning making machines, and we seek those places that we can identify with. What I think has changed is the world has we've been having crumbling institutions in terms of religion, civic organizations, and engagement. And so there aren't as many of those institutions that we feel called to connect to. And so in that space, brands have sort of come in. So now people, whereas before they might have identified with a church or a certain religion, now they're like, I'm a Nike guy, I'm an
Right.
Adidas guy, or I'm a
Right.
Disney person, right?
Right.
And so we
Right.
see this rise in identification of brands versus other more traditional institutions of our society.
Okay. Okay. So it's not necessarily like cycles that happen maybe generationally or anything like that. It's just a slow evolution of human tribal nature.
Yeah, and I think it's a
Wanting to belong.
sunset. It's a sunset of the old ways of like the Mad Men era. What the Mad Men era brought to the marketing and advertising, how that changed consumerism. It
Hmm.
really did. It really, but it sort of worked with what we were going through as a society too. This post-war idealized version of American life, and the ad makers got really good at branding around that and using FOMO, using these idealized versions. And people over time that just started to crumble, because when there's a gap, by creating an artificial construct, you're also creating it. If it's truly not what your brand is, and then it creates a gap, and that gap will
Right.
eventually, in the fishbowl that we live in today, will be exposed over at some point, and it will damage or bring down you or your brand. So to brand from who you truly are, what you truly believe, is this sort of timeless approach that has risen as the old world has sort of sunsetted in the last 10,
Okay.
15 years.
It's not to say that sale deadlines and things don't still have an effect, right? They're still there. It's just um, it's a little
That's right. I mean, they
particularly when it's contrived.
right. Of course, we want to create urgency that works, but in the kind of branding I practice, we try to never use FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, to manipulate people's emotions in a sort of negative, or to get them to purchase a thing. There are people that do that, and it can be very effective. That's always available to folks, but we recommend kind of that transparency, because nobody wants to be marketed to.
Right.
We push away from target market, because nobody wants to be a target, and nobody really wants to be marketed to. And if it sounds like advertising or marketing, it's going to be treated that way, which means it's going to be dismissed. And so I think that's what's changed also, is that we've gotten better and better at making it sound less and less like marketing. And now in the AI age, that's been mechanized. And so, but we still see throughout it all, Tim, the super interesting consistency of a desire for human beings to really connect on a deep level, and that content being the most compelling and engaging for audiences.
Right. Before I'm going to ask you for an example, but first, do you remember the old movie? It just popped in my head when you're talking about using fear to get people to buy something. It was a Dudley Moore film. Do you know what I'm talking about? Ad Man or something like that?
Oh, I was thinking of Arthur, but
Oh,
I don't know.
no.
Yeah.
Same era.
Ad Man. Yeah. I'll have to look that up.
Okay, yeah, there's some funny stuff. And he snaps at one point, right? And he makes all these ads, and they they go and they get him committed, but then they accidentally print all the ads, and they're all like crazy effective. And one of them was Metamucil. If you don't eat it, you'll get cancer and die, right? That type of fear stuff. Anyway, could you give an example of identity branding in like a bigger one that people may pick out?
So one of my favorite ones to point to is Disney. I mean, I think they're the ultimate in their consistency in branding a set of values that Walt and his brother kind of established early on. And they've been very consistent with how they've iterated on that in their different sub-brands, right? The theme parks, the merchandise, but they've sort of all adhered to this idea of enjoyment and immersive experiences. I think that's where they stand apart. Like, they haven't just sold us something. You know the difference between going to a Disney park versus going to a Six Flags or Knott's Berry Farm. It's the difference between feeling like you are part of it, that you voluntarily want to dress up as a character, as people do, and become a part of it, versus just paying for some interaction or some thrill. So I think Disney has done a great job over the years. Smaller brands that take the time to really cultivate their community and their audience are also, one of them that I like is Oatly Oat Milk. It's Oat, Oatly.
Okay.
They have a really cool packaging. They're always infusing story into their packaging, and they're telling the story of their brand throughout. Chipotle has done this really well in their branding and the art that they bring to it. So a lot of times, I think the brands that do this really well are infusing both their ethic and what they believe, and they're using art to tell that story consistently over time.
Right.
But I mean, early on, Zappos was another great example of this, and I think Nike has done a very good job as well.
Right. Well, Nike, yeah, a lot of the initial Nike stuff, the Just Do It campaign, but Zappos, I think that's more of where it was going. I wanted something like it was more of a community-based shop, right? That was the idea.
Yeah, so much can be done with community. There's a cell phone company based out of the UK called Riff Raff, and instead of hiring tech support, they built their entire platform on a community that would respond to issues. And so they cultivated that, they curated that, but then they also use the community to, hey, tell us what you want in terms of these different packages, in terms of service packages. What should we name them? And they use the community with sort of this kind of
like a board of directors.
Symbiote. Yes, exactly. And they really make it all about the community. There are a lot of others like that. I think REI is another good one that knows the value of their community and serves them extremely well, and is very consistent in what they believe in and sharing that. Okay. And that doesn't mean that they don't take flack for it. They do, but they remain consistent. Which I often say, marketing is not rocket science. It's clarity of message delivered consistently over time.
Right. That's, I think, more and more of what I've been impressed with over time is seeing how some brands keep it so simple
Hmm.
to keep it clear, right?
Hmm.
And I have a tendency to expound and talk too much and share too much information and confuse people.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting, I'm trying to get better at it, but some people are really good at seeing, like I said earlier, through the proper lens, what information they need. Um,
Yes. Well,
uh,
it's much more challenging to say less as opposed to saying more. So it's like that scene in Legends, or a river runs through it, where
okay.
Tom Skerritt is the father, and he asks his
Uh,
son to write an essay, and he writes the whole essay, and then he redlines it, and then he says, "Do it again." And he does it again. He redlines it more, and then it ends up being one sentence, and he's like, "Perfect."
nice. I don't remember that. I don't remember
Yeah,
that.
it's really great.
I remember the joke. What was it? It was a religious joke. Oh, when the one son was dating Protestant family girl. Do you remember that line?
No.
Oh, and he said, I didn't know what that was. I asked my dad, right? Because his dad was a minister, and he said, "What are Protestants?" He goes, "Oh, those are Baptists who can read." Oh, Jesus. Anyway, all right. Sorry. Yeah, it was scary. I haven't seen that movie in a long time, but
It's a good
anyway,
one. Yeah.
yeah,
He
some really.
actually balls up the essay and throws it in the garbage every single time.
Oh
The kid brings it
yeah,
back. If you remember that,
yeah.
like he just keeps going, "Nope, try again.
I
Nope,
remember
try
that
again."
now. Okay,
Yeah.
funny, funny. Okay, um, so maybe talk a little bit about some of the bigger challenges in helping people
Mhm.
get clarity on their brand.
Yes. So, brand is how other people experience what you believe, and so a lot of times, like you're saying, we kind of expound. We talk until we figure out what that is. And I think for most people, it's really hard to kind of step out of that frame, as you mentioned earlier, and
Right,
figure out in all of what I just said, what is the salient piece. So
right,
we feel like our role is to push people to the edge of what they might say, and then to hone in on the simple, unexpected, and emotional message that is an umbrella message that can kind of encompass their philosophical truth and what they want to share with the world, what the brand wants to stand for. And then all the other pieces that you need to have a good, healthy brand and effective marketing come underneath that. The what you do in very clear language, the how you do it in the way that's different, and then how people benefit from that. But without that message and without that being extremely concise and powerful, you're not going to last past the few seconds that people give you when they come to your website or they hear you speak. So I think that's the number one challenge. People come to us, especially entrepreneurs or leaders, they're like, oh, I've poured myself into this endeavor and we're having success, but I don't feel like the message is nailed down. And so that's usually the primary challenge. Knowing how they're different is often a challenge as well. And then going just deeper and being more daring in how they're expressing their truth to the world. Um, I just feel usually it's like people come to us sometimes and they're like, our mission is to help people get better. And I'm like, that's beautiful. And it's not different enough.
incredibly
Like,
vague.
yes. I'm like, I love that that's the impulse there, but let's dig into that. What
Right.
is the thing you're here to do that only you can do through this business or this nonprofit? And we really honing in on what that is. And it's almost like cutting your hair or giving yourself a massage. You can't really do it for yourself. It doesn't
Right.
have the
Tickling
same
yourself.
impact. Yeah, exactly.
Huh, okay. Okay. So, uh, here's a question I like to ask sometimes, and this goes with what we talked about beforehand, that you have other sort of projects around. But what have you done in the last 12 months that's changed your life, right? Or what programs do you have that with impact in the area?
Oh, that's wonderful. Um, what a great question. I mean, just on the personal side, I've had two graduations in my family, a child who graduated from college, a child who graduated from high school. So I'm in the middle of a
Nice.
big change in my
Yeah.
life.
Those are
That way.
that's awesome. I assume
Yeah.
I mean, you said celebrate. That's something that I took for granted when I was younger, right? There's not a lot of things to celebrate in life. There's a lot of things that give you hiccups and other problems and things, but weddings, right? Birthdays, all these things. They really deserve proper celebration, right? When you graduate from a
Yeah.
program, for sure.
Absolutely. I think celebration and then part of that is like reflection, like noting that like, okay, that era is done.
Right.
And then what does the next part of my life look like and how do I want to be if my personal life and my physical health and what I'm trying to do, how much I want to experience as a person.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
there's that. That's changed my life and is
If
in the process of changing it.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
And
those are milestones, right? And I mean, I
mhm,
bring this up because I got kids, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to party. I don't want, to celebrate." It's like, yeah,
yeah, no.
we have an Eagle Court of Honor coming up for my son who achieved the rank of Eagle Scout, which is awesome.
That's
But
awesome.
some of the boys are like, "Yeah, I don't want to do anything." It's like, no, that's how we show that it's important and it's significant, and that that it to you as well as to the community, right? That
Yeah.
these types of achievements matter.
Absolutely. I think that, yeah, I think it's so important to mark those, their rites of passage that we have and just take a second to pull the car over and celebrate. From a business perspective, we've really, in the last 3 years, I would say, we've really sort of changed our business model a bit. So we do brand strategy and messaging, and those engagements are like 3 to 4 months. But I wanted something that we could, as a team, see through more of the implementation of the language and positioning that we've come up with. So, in the last 3 years, we've positioned to continue to offer that, but also offer content creation for clients on an ongoing basis, as well as
Okay.
fractional CMO consulting.
Okay.
So that was just a concept, and now it's actually happened in place. And getting to work day in, day out with these visionary leaders who we have the opportunity to work with. I mean, they're always challenging me. They're always bringing new ideas to the table, and
Right.
working with visionaries is great, but it's also a matter of pinning them down sometimes. So I think that has helped me grow as a leader myself, and as I work and collaborate with my team. And then for years, we've also, in addition to the high level kind of expertise that we provide to our clients, we also wanted to have an offering that can help people who are sitting in front of their computer. Maybe they're a marketing um, administrator, or maybe they love to write and they're running their own consulting firm, but they just are staring at that blank cursor. So we wanted to put together a program that was affordable and accessible for them to get them going, get them from that
Okay.
stuck place into action. And we talked about it, I think, for about 2 years. And so we launched our first cohort in the spring. We've got another one coming up in the fall. And it's just so satisfying to take an idea, gestate
Hmm.
on it for a while, and then actually put it out there in the world and be able to start helping people express themselves. That's really important to me. I feel,
Okay.
yeah, that I want to help. While we help at the highest level with the CEO and the C-suite and privately held companies, visionary leaders, we also want to help people who are doing the work every day.
Right. Right. That's I want to say it was a GoDaddy spinoff or something, but basically the Yam. I don't remember. But
Mm,
you know what I'm talking about?
yeah,
So startups who need all that marketing don't have the funds to pay for it, right? And so they were giving up
correct.
equity to
Mm.
fractional CFOs in a sense for that sort of thing. I don't know how well that model's been working, or is that a little bit of what you can do as well, or
So we don't take equity, but we'll for organizations that are growing, and
hmm
especially privately held organizations, maybe up to about 100 employees, they have a need for high level strategy
hmm
and someone to be the brand owner of the brand and the culture. Those things kind of intermix.
Right.
So what we can do is walk alongside them in a fractional sense, like it's not full time, but
Right. Right.
we
Okay.
help them make sure that their brand and their marketing are consistent and work right alongside their team to ensure that we're continuing to push the envelope in what we're doing
Right.
in terms of the brand.
Feels
Yeah.
like feels like establishing and maintaining brand identity falls a little bit more under your old PR umbrella. Is that maybe true?
I don't know. I feel like it's a blend. Like it's an interesting blend for me of like communication, culture. There is a little bit of PR to it, but there's also a lot of, visual design and having to act as a art director and in order to keep the
Right.
brand consistent. I have a background in art, and so that serves me pretty well in applying that. So I love brand because it's sort of like the delicious center of a lot of different things inside
Right.
of an organization.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I think a lot of it comes down to story,
Yes.
and that's what we connect with, and that's as a creative type, I'm sure you like to create that and sell that story, share it.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so back to impact and legacy stuff here in like the Valley and stuff. You're part of other programs or sharing this and different. Yeah, you have any upcoming events? I think you had something to that effect.
Oh yeah, I mentioned it earlier. So our fall cohort of what we call Spark Lab, it's
Okay,
kind of
that's it.
Spark Ideas.
Okay,
We'll start at the end of August, so I can share some information with folks if they're interested. And yeah, I mean, as far as the Valley, I've really been focused also on the last 3 years. I worked the first kind of part of the business. We have clients all over the world, all over the US, but in the last 3 years, I've been wanting to really focus on the Phoenix market and,
okay.
build a little bit more of a brand for Root and River here
It's
in the Valley.
okay. It's booming
Yeah.
here. There's
Yeah.
plenty of businesses. That's good.
Yes. And a lot of innovation. That's been fun.
Yeah, yeah. So can you tell us a little bit more about Spark Lab
Mhm.
and how people can learn more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll share the link. But it's a 6-week program where we kind of walk you through week by week. We meet once a week and we kind of give you some exercises to work on the expression of your brand, how to do it. We give you tips, especially connected to LinkedIn, on what's going to work best for content and foster you from going from that, I have no idea what to say, to having a sense of how to tell stories, how to make them
Right.
effective and connected to your core brand. And just, it's a gentle kind of guided experience. And everybody in the cohort gets to connect as well and support each other in the content they're putting out in the world, which has a really positive impact on what gets seen where. So,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
but I'll share the link and people can take a look and see if
Okay,
it's for
great.
them.
About how many people per cohort? Does it range?
Yeah, it ranges. We like to kind of keep it small, so
Okay.
10 to
A
15
handful?
is
Okay.
ideal. Yeah. Because we also like to give individual attention if folks are stuck and
Sure,
have some
sure.
good conversation.
I'm sure it sounds great because you could like workshop different people's thing as a mastermind and go through and everybody can learn as you
Exactly.
go. Sounds great.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. As we wrap things up here, I have a reflection question I like to ask some people, and I want to ask you what you wish you knew sooner about building wealth and success earlier in your career.
Mm, That's a great question. I've been thinking a lot about that at this stage in my life. I think when I was younger, I'm a saver by nature. And
Okay.
so if I had an opportunity, especially when I was younger, to spend or save, I would always save. But
Hmm.
I didn't necessarily think about investing. My
Uh-huh.
husband, who's less risk averse, was like, maybe we should invest in this. Maybe we should invest in this. And I was like, no, 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 we need to save. So I think what I wish
Okay.
I'd understood earlier is the opportunity of that investment provides. And then also from a practical standpoint, different funding mechanisms. I just thought I had to have a pot of money set aside, saved for someday
Right.
versus
Multiple streams of income.
yeah, and also like, oh, you can leverage this in order to invest in
Mhm.
that.
Right.
So I wish I'd understood all that a lot
Right.
sooner.
Okay. That's a common answer is been more financially astute, earlier on.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's I'm that way too, right? I had to educate myself after I left science and it took me years to get dialed into to better investments and so forth. And um it requires time. So sooner
Yeah.
would have been better.
Yeah.
I mean, time to learn, but time for investments to work, right?
Right. Yeah.
Anyway,
Right. I mean, I grew up here, and when I think about the value of the properties I was driving by as a 20-year-old or 30-year
right?
old, my husband's like, oh, maybe we should buy this. And I'm like, no, 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 we need to save. I'm like thinking of myself, like, oh,
Right.
yeah.
Right. Yep. 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 All right, Emily. So, if people would like to connect with you or learn more,
Mhm.
what should they do? Where can they go?
Definitely visit us at rootandriver.com is our website. Connect with me on LinkedIn.
Is
Pretty
that
active
it?
there.
It's AND,
That's correct.
ROOTANDRIVER. Okay.
Yes, Root and Andy River. And then I'm most active on LinkedIn, so please look me up there. Fill out a contact form on our website or send me a DM if you have a specific question. I'm always happy to answer or weigh in on if you've got like kind of a marketing or brand challenge. Happy to give you my thoughts. That doesn't cost anything, and very happy to connect, especially if you're in the Phoenix area.
Okay, great. I imagine some people might need a brand audit or something, right? And check
Yep.
in how frequently would you say people need to sort of revisit their brand and update it?
I think it's really healthy to once a year kind of do
Okay.
take a step back and look at the brand from like the foundational, the root level. And then typically every 3 years, your website's going to need an update. Um, that can, kind of vary, but about 3 years is so if it's been longer than that, you should update your headshots once or twice a year. I know that sounds like a lot, especially the way people are about headshots and
It
photos,
does
but
seem like a lot.
yeah. But really, if you're staying current, that means having that change because that does draw attention when you make those visual
Yeah.
changes as well. But definitely
We are
having a
visual
once a
creatures.
year, yeah, once a year, kind of taking a hard look. Are these still our beliefs? Is this still our mission? And then doing a deeper dive if things come up, you know, every few years or so to make sure that the
Okay.
language is resonating and your audience changes, what they think about your business changes. So checking in with the people you're
Right.
serving. Does this sound like me? Is this accurate to your experiences? Those kind of
Right.
questions can always be really helpful.
For sure. For sure. Okay. Great insights again. Thank you, Emily.
Yeah,
All
you're
right.
welcome.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening and watching. Thank you very much, Emily Soccorsy, for joining me today. I said that right, right?
You did.
All right. All right. Yeah, we appreciate you sharing your story and your insights into success and marketing here in Phoenix.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.